Let's talk about some of the features in Maya. And by now, you should already know that when you log into, well, when you open Maya, you'll see this What's New highlight settings. And basically, what it does is it just highlights in the menu what's new in this current edition, and you have the option of not showing up, not having this show up during the um, startup time. So I'm just going to hit OK, and if you want to check that out, you can actually scroll through the menu and you can see the new stuff highlighted in green. There's not much new stuff between this version and the previous two versions, so that's why it's not a lot, but sometimes there are. And under help, the 1 minute startup videos will basically help you get up and running on Maya. What I want to demo now is the Hotbox in Maya. And the Hotbox is basically a shortcut box or a shortcut key that allows you to get to all the different menu sets all at once. And then it also introduces additional menu sets that are actually like only found in certain areas. And again, this is just one of like two or three ways of doing the same thing in Maya. So the reason I'm going over this is because to me, in terms of using it, is the best in my world, and the way it works is one of the more efficient ways of using it, and also it displays things graphically. So let's talk about the hotbox. To get to the hotbox, you do not tap because we know that tapping will take you to the fore-view and alternate between the fore-view and whatever view your mouse is over. So I'm going to go back to my perspective view. Instead of tapping on the space bar, we are going to hold down the space bar, and that will introduce our marking menus. This introduces also all of the menus. That would be again found under the menu set. So you have this, which is under rendering, all of these, which are under modeling, skeleton, skin, deform, constraint, which are under rigging, key, playback, audio, etc., which are under animation, and particle stuff, which are under effects, and lighting, texturing, rendering, which are under rendering menu set. So you have all of these different menu sets showing up all at once when you hold down and hit the space bar to introduce your hotbox. If you notice, you also have these white lines, and what they do is they basically separate, like a map, the north side, the south side, the east side, and the west side. So the most frequently used menu set in our tutorials will be the north marking menu. So in a tutorial, if you hear the north marking menu, it would be this north side right here. And with the hotbox button held down, so with your spacebar held down showing the hotbox, you can go to your north marking menu, right mouse button click and hold that right mouse button down, and you can go to the Hypershade render perspective. And the reason we're going to use this will become a little bit more obvious as you follow the different lessons. But basically what that will give us is a Hypershade window, the render window, and this perspective window that we're looking at. The other thing that I just want to emphasize again is that when you are holding down the hotbox, it's just a real quick way of selecting things without going here and changing things, your menu set around each time you need to access one of these things. So let's say that you have a model. I'm just going to throw up a quick model here and hit R to get the scale tool and just click in the middle to scale it up uniformly. And I'm going to hit W to go to the move tool and just move that up spacebar so that I can just kind of check that to make sure that the bottom of my ball roughly aligns with the basically y equals 0 of my universe. So the ground for all intents and purposes. And so once I lift that up, I just want to show you all that, let's say I'm working on the polygon, but I also all of a sudden just need to do a quick thing with creating something else. I can just hit the light hot box and then go to lights, and let's just say, I really quickly need a point light for some reason. I'll just get that point light out there. And when you create something in Maya by going to the create menu here, or by accessing the create menu from your hotbox, whatever way you decide to do it. When you create anything, what Maya does is basically throw it out in the center of your universe. So the center of that universe is right here, where x, y, and z position y is equals 0, 0, and 0. And so basically, once it throws something out in the center, if you don't move it and you continuously create more things, it'll basically stack on top of each other. And the only way then at that point to get it is through selecting it in your outliner, because they'll basically be a mishmash of things. So this is basically what will end up happening if you just create things without really moving them. See, I have all this stuff that I created because I just continuously had these things. So the other thing in terms of this outliner here, as I said, you can select everything individually by clicking on it. You can also hold down the control key and to select multiple items. Or you can select the last one, hold down shift, and select the first one in a group or in this kind of fashion to select all the ones in between. The other thing with the outliner, the ones that are shaded, grayed out, that represents objects that are hidden. So these cameras right here, perspective, top, front, and side, correspond to how we're seeing the window panes from the side, the top, the front, and the perspective. And if we unhide that, the shortcut key to unhide is Shift H. If we unhide that, and I'll blow up my perspective window. Unhide that, I select it here. Oh, you can't see it because we're actually seeing out of the perspective camera. So you can't select the perspective camera and like try to select it in the perspective window. So we have to try to select it from one of the other windows. So let me go to my side window and just zoom out far enough. Perspective camera, there it is. Oops, there it is. And if we take that perspective camera here and rotate it, I'm in my rotate tool, E to get into my rotate tool. And if I just rotate it, guess what I'm doing? I'm like basically moving the camera here. Now, the main thing you have to realize with the perspective camera, it's okay. But these other cameras, I would not, unless you specifically need a reason to move them or have them show up, I don't recommend you turning them on. So see how I turn this one on by hitting Shift H? I can turn this one on as well. And again, I can see these other cameras from my perspective camera because they are not perspective. Actually, there it is right there. A couple of shortcut keys. If you select an object and hit F, what it will do is frame that object in your window. It's a real quick way to just kind of find your place or find an object that if you somehow tumbled away far enough and things like that. So F to frame an object, and basically it centers it as well. So see, I messed up my perspective camera and now I have to fix it. And in order to do that, I'm just going to go to the top one of these other perspectives, select my perspective camera, and go to the numbers. I'm going to hit Control A to cycle between my channel editor and my attribute editor. So this is my channel editor, and these are all the values listed for that camera. And I'm simply going to turn the rotation to 0, 0, and 0 so that everything's kind of back straight again. And then I'll go ahead and select one of these objects and hit F here to frame it. And now my perspective camera is thankfully back to normal. So again, that's why you don't want to touch these things, because you're going to mess them up if you do. In the future lesson, you'll see how to set up a camera and create your own camera and set it up by going to create cameras. And that's how you would add cameras to your scene. You wouldn't really generally use any of these. So now that I have these visible, what I'm going to do is hide them. In order to hide an object, so any one of these objects, but I'm going to start with these three camera objects, I'm going to control select them all, and I'm simply going to hit the letter H to hide them. So the letter H to hide, and now it's gone. And the keyboard shortcut Shift H, or basically capital H, to show that. So lowercase h to hide and Shift H or capital H to unhide. And you have to select the object to hide. And once you select an object and you hit hide, it's no longer visible in your scene. So how do you get to it? Over here in your outliner. Again, your outliner will have every single thing you ever create in your scene as a running list of all of the objects.